All right, we're going to explore this, go as deep as we need to be. Joining us now, our great friend Rick Perry, former Energy Secretary, Governor of Texas, and Andrew Wheeler, former EPA Administrator. So, Andy Wheeler, I know we have the great, powerful, all-encompassing Rick Perry, but I got to start with you, Andrew. You were in the thick of this fight when the Trump administration overturned or tried to overturn the Obama business. Just give us, what do you make of this? How powerful is this going to be?
Well, thank you, Larry. It's great to be on your show again. And you're absolutely right. This is a powerful decision today. And I have to say, I feel vindicated. I feel vindicated on behalf of myself and my entire staff at the Trump EPA. When I was confirmed, I told the United States Senate that I would follow the laws. And then for the next 3 years, I got beat up for not going as far as the Obama administration did. And I kept saying the Obama administration went beyond the law. And the Supreme Court stayed the Clean Power Plan. But apparently that wasn't enough, because people still talked about the Clean Power Plan. You know, the Democrats in Congress beat me up over it, environmental groups, and the environmental activists who are employed by the media, such as the New York Times, kept saying that I was rolling back the Obama regulation. I kept saying, no, the Supreme Court stated it's not the law of the land. And today the Supreme Court had to come out again and reaffirm it. And they've reaffirmed it very strongly. And you're right, this is implications not just for the EPA, but all regulatory agencies. Congress has to pass the laws.
Yes, sir. No, you, just before the show, I talked to our friend, former Interior Secretary David Bernhardt, said the same thing you did. He used to go up on the Hill, and all the lefties would hammer at him, and he'd say, go ahead, pass a law. And they never did. And so he said, you can't act without a law, believe it or not, constitutional stuff. So, Andrew, you can get up the chair and do a little rain dance around the chair, a little victory rain dance if you care to. Maybe you'll have to wait till after the show. I don't want to screw up the connection.
I'll wait till after the show.
But I do, before I get to Rick on this, insofar as EPA now, I mean, this really damages one of their key weapons for controlling greenhouse gases. Could you just enlighten us about this? How far does this go?
Well, I think it goes really far. You mentioned the SEC regulation. There's also another EPA regulation that the Biden administration is working on, and that's for the automobiles, to try to change the automotive fleet from gas power over to electric. And it's very similar to what the Supreme Court came out with today, and I don't think they'll be able to do that. Because what the Supreme Court said today is EPA does not have the authority to tell the electric utility industry that they have to switch from coal to natural gas. So I don't see how they have the authority to tell Detroit that they have to switch from gasoline-powered cars over to electric cars. In Congress, and the Obama administration, let's just go back for a minute. President Obama had 60 Democrats in the United States Senate, filibuster-proof majority, and they didn't even bring climate legislation up on the Senate floor. And instead, President Obama told his EPA people, go ahead and do this by regulation. Do this without congressional action. And that's what the Supreme Court said today, is you can't do things like this without congressional action. Congress passes the laws and agencies implement them.
So, Rick Perry, welcome back as always. In your judgment, how big a dent does this put into their ideological climate change woke policies? How big a dent does this put into their Green New Deal stuff?
It doesn't put a dent in it. I think it runs over them. I mean, they're in the middle of the road, and this was a very big locomotive with a full head of steam that hit the woke movement. Larry, I'm reminded 12 years ago, I wrote this book called Fed Up. I'd spent my time as the governor of the state of Texas not only suing the federal government because they were infringing upon our rights. It got to the point I said, look, let's just write a book and maybe somebody will read it and they will come to the right conclusion that the 10th Amendment means what it says, that if it is not specifically addressed in the Constitution, it is held for the states to make those decisions, or the people, we the people. So this was a glorious, glorious day for those of us that believe that these 50 laboratories of innovation out there are where the decisions need to be made in this country. This was good stuff, in my opinion. So, and speaking to these agencies that overreach, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's, obviously the court's opinion as well. Think about this one. How about the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, who has not put into place the regulations in 40 to 50 years for a new nuclear reactor to be put in place? How about the states being put in charge of that themselves to be able to decide whether this walk-away safe, economical, emission-free energy source needs to be deployed in their states? I think that's an idea that's time has come.
Rick, on this point, continuing, how much power will be shifted now back to the states to make their own power decisions, their own electricity decisions? And I'm just wondering, Rick, will this help them make, let's say, their own permitting decisions, if we're talking drilling, fracking, pipelining, refining, and stuff like that?
Absolutely. Listen, if the woke left wants to go stop these types of activities, go to the states and make that happen. It's not Washington, D.C.'s place. And the Supreme Court not only said it powerfully, they stuck a stake in the heart of the woke movement.
Fascinating. Andrew Wheeler, can I go to the subject of permitting now generally? Because one of the great regulatory obstacles that the Biden's Green New Deal has set up, which has been so damaging, is they won't give permits for anything, really. Fracking, drilling, pipelining, refining. I don't think they're going to give permits, by the way, for roads and highways either, for that matter, because of some of these crazy environmental restrictions coming out of the EPA and elsewhere. But, Andrew, will this Supreme Court decision have any impact on the Interior Department or the Energy Department, or even something like the White House Council on Environmental Quality, or whatever it's called, which have all banded together, conspired together to stop permitting, which I think has had a tremendous dampening influence, less production of oil and gas, higher prices, higher gasoline prices. Can the permitting issue be dealt with through this vehicle?
I'm not sure if it can be dealt with specifically through this vehicle, but it certainly opens up a lot of new avenues for people to look at, and to look at how the permitting decisions are made. And you know, it's really frustrating to see that, you know, the drilling here in the United States. There's a new EPA regulation that has a significant impact on the oil drilling in Texas, where we get 60% of our domestic fuel. But it's important, if we're not getting our fuel here, we're getting it from other countries. You know, President Biden just this week is talking about going to Saudi Arabia and UAE to ask them to produce more oil. We produce our oil here in the U.S. in a much cleaner fashion than any of our competitors worldwide. So if we're not accessing the oil here in our country, we are importing dirtier oil from other countries. And if you're really concerned about the environment, we should be using more U.S. energy, and we should be providing our allies in Europe with our natural gas and our oil instead of making them more dependent on Russia.
You know, Andy, a very smart guy on this show a month or two back, his name was Rick Perry, made exactly that point. He said to me, Larry, we should open the spigots for LNG exports, sell it to India and China. That will reduce the coal usage. That will cut global emissions, mind you. So Governor Perry, Captain Perry, got that story right. Rick, I want to finish with you. We're always out of time. But you know what? You're mentioning federalism and the importance of federalism, the importance of states' rights and state power. I don't want to go too far off message, but about a week ago, last Friday, on the Roe v. Wade decision, returning power to the states and the state legislatures and the voters who elected the legislatures was really the key point of that decision as well. I give you the last word, sir.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long fight for people who read the Constitution, recognize it for its truths, and my hat's off to the Supreme Court for writing, in the case of Roe versus Wade, 50 years worth of wrong, 50 years worth of misreading the Constitution, and giving that decision-making, that power, back to the people, which is where it emanated from to begin with and where it should be today.
You know, the other thing, Rick, as we close down, the one piece of advice that Biden has not taken from you, he wouldn't meet with the oil and gas CEOs, right? He sent them to the Energy Department. He met with the windmill makers in the Roosevelt Room in the White House. He still hasn't sent a special envoy to Midland, Texas, which was your other great recommendation. You need a special. I mean, he's going to see the Saudis. He's going to see the Qataris. God knows who's going to see when he's over there. How about Midland, Texas, where the oil and gas center of the world is? Well, I mean, just a thought. It was your thought.
And since he's headed that direction, come on down to the border, Mr. President, and we'll show you what your immigration policies are doing to the great state of Texas.
Yeah, that's coming up in the show also. Anyway, Rick Perry, thank you, sir. Andrew Wheeler, thank you. Both of you, terrific stuff.